An orphaned girl and her dog, fleeing from their pursuers in a deserted, isolated forest, found a 95-year-old cave and were forced to take refuge there. When they entered the cave and saw what was inside, they were shocked, unaware that they were about to change the fate of the entire world. 8-year-old Maya ran through the Kentucky forest, her bare feet bleeding from sharp rocks and thorns, her lungs burning with every desperate breath. Behind her, voices echoed through the trees, adult voices, angry voices, voices that wanted to drag her back to a fate worse than death. She went this way. Tracks lead toward the old quarry. Mrs. Holland wants her back tonight. The buyer's coming at midnight. Maya could hear the sounds from afar. Every second the sounds grew louder, meaning they were getting closer. Maya was so scared that she felt as if her heart would jump out of her chest. Beside her, Cooper, her golden retriever and only friend in the world, matched her pace, his amber eyes constantly checking on her, making sure she kept moving. We'll move on to the rest of the story, but first, if you've experienced an event that changed your life, please share it in the comments. They'd been running for 20 minutes since Maya kicked out her bedroom window and dropped into the azalea bushes below. 20 minutes since Cooper broke his chain in the kennel and bounded after her. 20 minutes since everything changed, because Maya had heard Mrs. Holland on the phone, heard every terrible word, and she was shocked and terrified by what she heard. They were plotting against her, a terrible plan. Yes, the Chen girl. 8 years old, healthy, no behavioral problems, $10,000, same as always. The transport van arrives at midnight. $10,000. That's what Maya was worth to the director of Riverside Children's Home. That's what her life cost. So she ran. And now, stumbling through underbrush as twilight turned to darkness, Maya had no idea where she was going. Just away. Always away. Cooper suddenly stopped, his nose working the air, his tail dropping low. He'd found something. What could a dog smell that might save them? "What is it, boy?" Maya whispered, her voice hoarse from running. The golden retriever pushed through a wall of wild blackberry vines, ignoring the thorns that caught in his fur. Maya followed, wincing as branches scratched her arms and face, and then the vines parted, and she saw it. A cave. Not a small hollow or rocky overhang, but a real cave. A massive opening in the limestone cliff face, like a huge opening, as if a person were opening their mouth while yawning. Behind them, flashlight beams cut through the growing darkness. The voices were getting closer. "Split up. Thompson, you take the creek bed. Daniels, check those rock formations." Maya made her decision. She and Cooper decided to enter the cave, swallowed by darkness so complete it felt like being erased from existence. The cave floor sloped downward, rough limestone beneath Maya's torn feet. She kept one hand on Cooper's back, trusting his superior senses to guide them deeper into the mountain. It was so dark that even when Maya brought her hand up to her nose, she couldn't see it. But she could hear. Water dripping somewhere ahead, the whisper of moving air suggesting the cave went deep. And most importantly, the voices of her pursuers fading behind them. "There's a cave entrance here. Should we check it?" "Forget it. That cave system goes back miles. If she went in there without a light, she's dead already. Let's search the quarry instead." The voices moved away. Maya stood frozen in the darkness, hardly daring to breathe. Cooper pressed against her legs. About 10 minutes had passed, and with every minute the sound of the wind in the forest grew weaker. Then it dropped to absolute silence, and they were completely alone. But they didn't know what lay in the depths of the cave. Were they alone, or were they not? Maya's legs gave out and she sank to the cold stone floor, wrapping her arms around Cooper's neck. The dog whined softly and licked her face, tasting the tears she didn't remember crying. "We can't go back," Maya whispered into Cooper's golden fur. "We can't ever go back." But they couldn't stay in total darkness either. Maya had no food, no water, no light, no plan. Just a terrified 8-year-old and a loyal dog hiding in a cave from people who wanted to sell her like merchandise. Could you survive in pitch-black darkness with nothing but hope and a dog's loyalty? Then Cooper's ears perked up. He lifted his head, sniffing the air, and made a soft chuffing sound Maya had learned meant he'd found something interesting. "What? What do you smell?" The dog stood and walked deeper into the cave, his nails clicking on stone. Maya scrambled to follow, one hand on his back, completely blind, but trusting him absolutely. They walked for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. The cave floor leveled out. The air changed, less damp, more still. Then Maya reached out and touched something, but it wasn't a rock. It had the rough feel of wood, a door, a board. She ran her fingers across it, finding edges, corners, a handle, a crate. Someone had left a wooden crate in this cave. Maya's hands shook as she explored the crate's surface. It was large, maybe 3 feet on each side, and the wood was old, splitting in places. The lid wasn't nailed down, just set on top. Should she open it? What if it contained something dangerous? What if... Cooper barked once, sharp and insistent. That was his pay attention bark. Whatever was in this crate, the dog thought Maya should see it. With trembling hands, Maya lifted the lid. The smell hit her first. Dry paper, old leather, a musty scent like her school library, but stronger. She reached inside and her fingers touched fabric. Oilcloth, maybe, wrapped around something. She pulled it out. It was heavy, rectangular, protected by layers of waterproof covering that crinkled under her fingers. And at the bottom of the crate, her searching hands found something else. Something cold and metallic and cylindrical, a flashlight, an old-fashioned metal flashlight. Maya's heart raced as she felt for the switch. Would it still work after who knows how many years in a cave? Did it have batteries? Were they dead? She found the switch and flipped it. Miraculously, the light turned on. At last, they had at least a little illumination. The cave chamber was larger than Maya's bedroom at Riverside, maybe 15 feet across, with a ceiling that disappeared into shadows above. But it wasn't natural. Someone had worked this space. The walls showed tool marks. The floor had been leveled, and scattered around the chamber were more crates, dozens of them, stacked carefully against the walls. But what made Maya's breath catch was what the flashlight revealed on the cave walls. There were hundreds of tally marks. Carved into the limestone in groups of 5, they covered nearly every surface. That meant someone had stayed here for a very long time, counting the days. And beside the tally marks, carved deep into the stone in letters 6 inches high, Joseph Crawford, 1925. Maya turned her attention to the oilcloth bundle in her hands. Carefully, she unwrapped it. Inside was a leather portfolio, the kind businessmen carried. Despite nearly a century in the cave, it was remarkably preserved. The oilcloth had done its job. Maya opened the portfolio with shaking hands. There were numerous documents, bank statements, property deeds, handwritten ledgers, and on top, a letter written in careful script on yellowed paper. The flashlight's beam shook as Maya read, "To whoever finds this, I am Joseph Crawford, and this is my confession and my insurance. I was a bootlegger during Prohibition, running whiskey through Kentucky caves to avoid the law. I got rich doing it, very rich, but I made enemies. Rival bootleggers who wanted my territory, corrupt lawmen who wanted bigger bribes, dangerous people who decided I was worth more dead than alive. So I hid my fortune where no one could find it. Swiss bank accounts, property purchased under false names, investments hidden in legitimate businesses. All documented here, worth approximately $2.5 million in 1925 dollars. I've been hiding in this cave for 3 months. They're hunting me. I hear them sometimes, searching the forest above. I don't think I'm getting out of here alive. If you're reading this and I'm dead, this fortune is yours. Use it better than I did. I made my money from people's weaknesses, their desire to drink, to break laws, to feel dangerous. Maybe you can do some good with it. The account numbers are all here, the property deeds, everything you need. There's a lawyer in Louisville, Marcus Chen at Chen & Associates. If he's still alive, he can help you. If not, find a lawyer you trust. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to turn myself in and face justice. I'm sorry I spent my life running and hiding. But maybe this fortune can help someone who deserves it more than I did. Good luck. You'll need it. Joseph Crawford, July 1925. Maya stared at the letter, her mind struggling to process what she'd just read. A bootlegger, a fortune, Swiss bank accounts, 1925. She quickly did the math in her head, 99 years ago. If Joseph Crawford died in this cave in 1925, his fortune had been sitting here, untouched for nearly a century. What would $2.5 million from 1925 be worth now? Cooper whined and pawed at another oilcloth bundle. Maya set down the portfolio and opened the second package. Inside were more documents, bank statements from Credit Suisse in Switzerland, showing accounts in the name J.C. Holdings. The numbers made Maya's head spin. Even in 1925, the accounts held over $2 million. But there was something else, a more recent edition, written on different paper in different handwriting, dated 1983. I am Marcus Chen, Jr., son of Marcus Chen, who helped Joseph Crawford establish his accounts. My father passed away in 1965, but he left instructions about the Crawford fortune. The Swiss accounts have been accruing interest for 58 years. Current value, approximately $47 million. If someone finds this note and the original documents, contact Chen and Associates in Louisville. The fortune awaits its rightful owner, Marcus Chen, Jr., April 1983. Maya's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the flashlight. $47 million in 1983. What would it be now in 2026? 70 million? 80? More? She was sitting in a cave, running from people who wanted to sell her for $10,000, and she'd just discovered a fortune that could change not just her life, but the lives of every child trapped at Riverside Children's Home. But how? She was 8 years old. Who would believe her? And even if they did, how could she prove the fortune was meant for whoever found it? Cooper barked suddenly, sharp and urgent. His ears were up, his body tense, facing the cave entrance. Maya killed the flashlight immediately, plunging them back into darkness. From somewhere outside the cave, voices echoed. Mrs. Holland says we're not going back without that kid. $10,000 for one brat? That's easy money. We just need to find her. She could be anywhere. These woods go on for miles. Check every possible hiding spot. She's 8 years old and barefoot. She can't have gone far. New voices, different men from before. Mrs. Holland had sent more hunters. Maya's breathing quickened. She pressed herself against the cold stone wall, Cooper rigid and silent beside her. The portfolio full of documents sat at her feet, a fortune in paper and ink. Think, Maya. Think like Mom would have wanted you to think. You're smart. You're resourceful. What do? Maya was trying to give herself strength, because she was still just a little girl and had only her dog by her side. The voices grew closer. There's a cave here, big opening. Should we check it? With what? We don't have lights good enough for cave exploring. And those limestone caves go back forever. She wouldn't be stupid enough to go in there without, Cooper growled, low, deep, protective. The kind of growl Maya had never heard from him before. The voices stopped. Did you hear that? Hear what? Sounded like a dog from the cave. The footsteps were drawing closer and closer. The beams of the flashlight seemed to erase the pitch-black darkness of the cave. Maya grabbed the portfolio, clutched it to her chest, and felt her way deeper into the cave. Cooper stayed close, no longer growling but tense and ready. The cave split into tunnels. Maya chose one at random, feeling her way along the wall, trying desperately not to make noise, trying not to trip, trying not to panic. Behind them, flashlight beams grew brighter. The men were coming in. I definitely heard something. Could be the kid. This is crazy. These caves are dangerous. $10,000 is $10,000. Come on. Maya's foot caught on something and she stumbled, catching herself against the wall with a gasp she couldn't quite silence. There! Did you hear that? That way. Move! The beams of light bounced crazily as the men rushed deeper into the cave. They were getting closer. Maya ran, blind, terrified, clutching the portfolio and trying to keep one hand on Cooper's back. The tunnel twisted and turned. Her shoulder hit a jutting rock and pain exploded through her arm. She bit back a cry. The flashlight beams were right behind them now. She could hear the men's breathing, their footsteps echoing off the stone. And then the floor disappeared. Maya's foot came down on empty air, and she pitched forward, tumbling, rolling, the portfolio flying from her hands. She hit hard, all the air knocked from her lungs, pain everywhere. She had fallen into a deeper tunnel. It wasn't very deep, but it was deep enough to cause injury. Cooper landed beside her with a yelp, then immediately pressed against her, licking her face frantically. Above them, the flashlight beams swept past. The men were still in the upper tunnel, running, not realizing Maya had fallen. Where'd she go? I don't know. The tunnel keeps going. This is insane. We could get lost down here. Mrs. Holland said, I don't care what Mrs. Holland said. I'm not dying in a cave for 10 grand. Let's get out of here. The sounds slowly began to fade. The men were frightened and were heading back toward the cave entrance. Maya lay in the darkness, every part of her body aching, listening to the voices disappear. Cooper whined softly and licked her hand. I'm okay, boy, Maya whispered, though she wasn't sure it was true. I'm okay. She felt around in the darkness, searching for the portfolio. Her fingers finally closed on the leather binding. Still there. Still safe. The documents that could buy her freedom, that could save not just her, but every child Mrs. Holland had sold or planned to sell. That could bring down the entire corrupt system that saw orphans as merchandise. But first, she had to survive the night. Maya pulled herself into a sitting position, her back against the cold stone wall. Cooper curled up against her, sharing his warmth. She wrapped her arms around him and closed her eyes. Cooper was trying to make her feel that she wasn't alone. What would Joseph Crawford think, she wondered, if he knew his bootlegger fortune had been found by a terrified 8-year-old girl running for her life? Would he be glad his money might finally do some good? The cave was silent except for the distant drip of water and Cooper's steady breathing. Outside, in the forest, men were hunting her. Back at Riverside, Mrs. Holland was probably furious, already planning how to cover up Maya's disappearance. But Maya had something now. Something powerful, something that could change everything. She had the truth, preserved in documents a dead bootlegger had hidden 99 years ago, and when morning came, she would find a way to use that truth, if she survived until morning. Cooper's breathing slowed, deepened. The dog was falling asleep, exhausted from running and protecting and being brave. Maya held the portfolio tight and let her own eyes close. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, new decisions. But tonight, in the darkness of Joseph Crawford's limestone tomb, she was alive. She was free. And she had hope. That would have to be enough. Maya woke to sunlight filtering through the cave entrance far above. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then, pain flooded through her body, her torn feet, her bruised shoulder, her scraped arms, and it all came rushing back. The escape she experienced yesterday, the chase, her fall and injury, and the treasure she found. Cooper was already awake, sitting alert beside her, his ears tracking sounds Maya couldn't yet hear. The golden retriever looked at her and wagged his tail once as if to say, "We made it through the night." Maya sat up slowly, wincing at every movement. The portfolio lay beside her where she'd clutched it all night. In the dim light filtering down from the upper tunnel, she could see she'd fallen into a small chamber, maybe 8 feet across. The walls were smooth limestone, and the floor sloped gently upward toward a different passage. "We need to get out of here, Cooper," Maya whispered. Her voice sounded strange in the enclosed space. The dog stood and walked to the sloping passage, sniffing the air. Then he looked back at Maya and barked once. "This way." Could you trust a dog's nose to lead you through a cave system you'd never seen? Maya trusted him. She took the portfolio and followed Cooper to the passage. It was narrow. She had to turn sideways in places, but it climbed steadily upward. The light was growing stronger. It meant they were getting closer to the exit. Fresh air moved past her face, carrying the scent of pine and morning dew. 5 minutes later, they emerged into daylight through a crack in the hillside, barely wide enough for Maya to squeeze through. Cooper had to wiggle and twist to make it, but finally they both stood in the forest, blinking in the morning sun. Maya looked around, trying to get her bearings. She could see the main cave entrance about 50 yards downhill, its dark mouth partially hidden by vines. But they'd come out a different way, on higher ground, where the searchers probably hadn't looked. In the distance, she could hear traffic. A highway, civilization. Hope sparked in her chest. If she could reach the highway, flag down a car, get help. But who would help a barefoot 8-year-old covered in dirt and scratches, carrying a leather portfolio and claiming to have found a 99-year-old bootlegger's fortune? They'd think she was crazy. They'd probably call the police, and the police might call Riverside Children's Home, and Mrs. Holland would come get her with her fake concerned smile and… No. Maya needed a different plan, a smarter plan. She sat down on a fallen log and opened the portfolio, looking at the documents in full daylight for the first time. The bank statements from Credit Suisse were stamped and official-looking, covered in numbers and account references. The property deeds showed land purchases in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Illinois, all under the name J.C. Holdings. The handwritten ledgers detailed Joseph Crawford's bootlegging operations in meticulous detail. And at the bottom of the portfolio, she found something she'd missed in the darkness, a photograph. It showed a young man in his 20s, lean and handsome, standing in front of a Model T Ford. On the back, written in faded ink, Joseph Crawford, age 26, Louisville, 1924. Before everything went wrong. Maya stared at the photo. This was the man who'd hidden in the cave, the man who'd scratched tally marks counting his days of fear, the man who died alone in the dark, hoping someone would find his confession and his fortune. He'd been somebody's son, maybe somebody's brother, a real person who'd made bad choices and paid for them. "Use it better than I did," his letter had said. Maya folded the letter carefully and put everything back in the portfolio. Then she stood up, wincing at her torn feet, and looked at Cooper. "We need to find Marcus Chen's law office, in Louisville. That's where the letter said to go." Cooper tilted his head, listening. "I don't know how far Louisville is from here. I don't even know exactly where here is. But it's the only plan I've got." The dog wagged his tail and started walking toward the sound of traffic. Maya followed. It took them 2 hours to reach the highway, moving slowly because of Maya's injuries. By the time they emerged from the tree line, the sun was high and Maya was dizzy from hunger and thirst. The highway was a 2-lane road cutting through the Kentucky hills. Not much traffic, but some. And a quarter-mile down the road, Maya could see buildings, a truck stop with big rigs parked in the lot and a diner attached. She approached cautiously, staying in the tree line, watching for any sign of Mrs. Holland's people. Would they be searching the highways, watching truck stops and gas stations? Cooper whined and pawed at her leg. The dog was thirsty too. Maya made a decision. She walked out of the trees and across the parking lot, trying to look like she belonged there despite her bare feet and dirty clothes. A few truckers glanced at her but didn't seem overly concerned. Maybe they thought she was with one of the families stopping for breakfast. There was a water spigot on the side of the building. Maya turned it on and let Cooper drink first, the golden retriever lapping eagerly at the cold water. Then she drank herself, gulping until her stomach hurt. "Hey, kid!" Maya spun around. A woman in her 50s was walking toward them from the diner, short gray hair, trucker's cap, weathered face that had seen a lot of miles. She carried a paper bag. Maya tensed, ready to run, but the woman held up her hands in a peaceful gesture. "Easy, honey. I'm not going to hurt you, but you look like you've had a rough night." She held out the bag. "I bought you a sandwich and some orange juice. Figured you could use it." Maya stared at her, suspicious. "Why?" "Because I was a runaway once, long time ago. I know the look." The woman set the bag on the ground between them and took a step back. "I'm not asking questions. I'm not calling anybody. Just offering food to a kid who looks hungry. Your choice whether to take it." She turned and walked back toward the diner without another word. Maya waited until the woman disappeared inside, then grabbed the bag. Inside was a turkey sandwich, a bottle of orange juice, and a bag of chips. Her hands shook as she tore into the sandwich, eating half before she even thought to share with Cooper. The dog didn't complain. He ate the pieces she gave him and looked at her with patient, loving eyes. As Maya ate, she thought, that woman had been kind, had helped without asking for anything in return. Maybe not everyone was like Mrs. Holland. Maybe some people actually cared about kids who needed help, but could she risk trusting anyone? She was trying to decide when a Kentucky State Police cruiser pulled into the parking lot. Maya's heart stopped. The trooper got out, a tall man in his 40s, sunglasses reflecting the morning light. He walked into the diner, probably just getting coffee. But what if someone had reported her? What if Mrs. Holland had filed a missing person report? What if… Maya forced herself to breathe, think. What would someone who wasn't running away do? They'd act normal, calm, like they had nothing to hide. She finished her sandwich slowly, fed Cooper the last of the turkey, and packed up the trash. Then she walked calmly toward the tree line, Not running, not drawing attention. Just a kid who'd finished eating and was heading back to wherever she came from. She was almost to the trees when the diner door opened and the trooper came out carrying coffee. "Hey, young lady!" Maya froze. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she forced herself to turn around slowly. The trooper walked toward her, and Maya's grip tightened on the portfolio. This was it. He was going to take her back. Mrs. Holland would... "You dropped this." The trooper held out Maya's orange juice bottle. She'd left it on the picnic table. "Oh," Maya managed. "Thanks." He handed her the bottle, studied her face for a moment, then glanced at her bare feet. "You okay? You need help with anything?" "What do you say when the truth is too dangerous to tell?" "I'm fine," Maya said. "Just waiting for my dad. He's, in the bathroom." The lie felt heavy on her tongue, but the trooper nodded and went back to his cruiser without pressing further. Maya didn't breathe until he drove away. Maya sat in the trees, drinking her orange juice and thinking. She needed to get to Louisville, but she had no money, no phone, no way to... "Still here, huh?" The trucker woman was back, standing at the edge of the parking lot. Maya tensed. "I'm leaving soon." "Uh-huh." The woman came a little closer but stayed a respectful distance. "Look, I'm heading to Louisville in about 10 minutes. If you need a ride, I can take you. No questions asked. Your dog can come too." "Why would you do that?" "Because when I was 14 and running from a bad situation, a trucker gave me a ride when I needed it. Probably saved my life. I'm just passing it forward." Maya studied her face, looking for deception, for danger. But all she saw was tired kindness and genuine concern. "I need to find a lawyer's office. Chen and Associates." The woman's eyebrows rose slightly. "That's downtown Louisville. I can drop you a few blocks from there. But kid, if you're in some kind of legal trouble..." "I'm not. I just need to talk to them about something important." The woman looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay. My rig's the blue Kenworth. You and your dog climb in the sleeper cab. I'll get you to Louisville." 20 minutes later, Maya was sitting in the comfortable sleeper compartment of a long-haul truck, watching Kentucky countryside roll past the window. Cooper lay beside her, finally relaxed for the first time since they'd escaped. The woman, she said her name was Ruth, didn't ask questions. She just drove, occasionally offering Maya water or crackers from her stash, making small talk about nothing important. "Louisville's about 90 minutes from here," Ruth said. "You got someone meeting you there? Someone you trust?" "I hope so," Maya said quietly. She clutched the portfolio and thought about Marcus Chen Jr.'s note from 1983. Was he still alive? Still practicing law? If not, would his firm still exist? Would they help a random 8-year-old with a wild story about a bootlegger's fortune? There was only one way to find out. Ruth dropped them 3 blocks from the address Maya found in the documents, a tall glass building in downtown Louisville. She handed Maya a $20 bill. "For food or whatever you need. Good luck, kid. I hope you find what you're looking for." Then she was gone, pulling back into traffic, and Maya stood on the sidewalk with Cooper and the portfolio, staring up at the building. 4th floor. According to the directory, Chen and Associates, attorneys at law. Maya walked into the lobby, trying to ignore the stares at her bare feet and dirty clothes. The security guard looked at her skeptically. "Can I help you?" "I need to see someone at Chen and Associates, 4th floor. It's important." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but then you'll need to..." "Please." Maya opened the portfolio and pulled out Joseph Crawford's letter. "I found something that their firm has been waiting for since 1925. They'll want to see this." The guard read the first few lines of the letter, his expression changing from skeptical to shocked. He picked up his phone. "Yeah, this is lobby security. I've got a situation down here. Young girl with a very old document claiming to have found the Crawford estate materials. Should I send her up?" A pause. Then, "Yes, sir. Right away." He hung up and looked at Maya with new respect. 4th floor. They're expecting you." The elevator ride felt like it took forever. Cooper pressed against Maya's legs, sensing her nervousness. What if they didn't believe her? What if they thought she'd stolen the documents? What if... The elevator doors opened. A man in his 70s stood waiting. Asian American, gray hair, expensive suit, eyes sharp with intelligence behind wire-rimmed glasses. When he saw the portfolio in Maya's hands, his eyes widened. "My God, are those—" He took a breath, composing himself. "I'm Marcus Chen III. My grandfather established accounts for Joseph Crawford in 1924. My father updated the documentation in 1983. Our firm has been the custodian of the Crawford estate for a century." "If you truly have the original documents, then you found something we'd almost given up hope of anyone discovering." He knelt down to Maya's level, gentle and professional. "But before we go further, I need to know, are you safe? Are you in danger? Do you need help?" Maya looked at his kind face, at his genuine concern, and made her decision. She told him everything, about Riverside Children's Home, about Mrs. Holland selling children, about running into the forest and finding the cave and the documents, about the men hunting her and Cooper protecting her and barely surviving the night. She told him all of it, and Marcus Chen III listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with every word. When she finished, he stood and pulled out his phone. "First, we call the FBI. What you've described is a federal crime, human trafficking. Second, we get you medical attention and proper clothing. Third, we verify these documents. And fourth," he looked at her seriously, "we make sure you're never in danger again. I give you my word." Maya felt tears streaming down her face. "The other kids, at Riverside, Mrs. Holland is going to sell more of them. We have to stop her." "We will," Marcus said firmly. "I promise you we will." He led Maya and Cooper into a conference room, got them water, and made rapid-fire phone calls. Within 30 minutes, the room filled with people, FBI agents, a child welfare specialist, a doctor to examine Maya's injuries. And through it all, Marcus Chen III sat beside her, a steady presence, making sure she felt safe. Special Agent Rebecca Walsh was the lead FBI investigator, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who listened to Maya's story with intense focus, taking detailed notes. "We've had suspicions about Riverside for months," Walsh said, "but no proof, no witnesses willing to come forward. You're giving us what we need to shut them down." "How many kids are there?" Maya asked. "At Riverside right now?" Agent Walsh checked her notes. 17 according to state records, but if Mrs. Holland has been selling children and covering it up, there could be more who aren't officially documented. 17 children. 17 lives at risk. "We need to get them out," Maya said. "Tonight, before Mrs. Holland can hurt anyone else." "We will," Agent Walsh promised. "We're getting a warrant right now. By tonight, Riverside Children's Home will be raided and every child will be placed in protective custody." Maya sagged with relief. Cooper put his head in her lap and she buried her fingers in his golden fur. They were safe. The other kids would be safe. Justice was coming. But there was still one more thing. "The fortune," Maya said quietly. "Joseph Crawford's money. Is it real? Is it still there?" Marcus Chen III smiled. "Let's find out." Over the next 3 hours, Marcus and his team of lawyers verified every document in the portfolio. The Credit Suisse account numbers were real. Marcus called the bank's legal department in Switzerland, provided the account information and authentication codes from the documents, and waited while they researched. When the bank representative came back on the line, Marcus's hand shook slightly as he wrote down numbers. He hung up and looked at Maya with an expression of awe. "The accounts have been accruing compound interest for 99 years. The current total value as of today is $83,400,000. The room went silent. $83 million. From a bootlegger who died in 1925, hidden in a cave, waiting for someone to find it. And according to Joseph Crawford's will, verified by Marcus's grandfather's original legal documents, the fortune belonged to whoever discovered it, which meant it belonged to Maya. "I don't want it," Maya said immediately. Marcus blinked. "I'm sorry?" "I don't want it for me. I want it to help the other kids, the ones like me, the ones Mrs. Holland sold, the ones still in homes like Riverside, all of them. Can we do that?" Marcus smiled, the first real smile Maya had seen from him. "Yes, we can absolutely do that. We'll establish a foundation in Joseph Crawford's name, dedicated to helping children who've survived trafficking and abuse. You'll be the beneficiary and eventual trustee, but the money will be used for good." Exactly what Crawford wanted. Maya nodded. That felt right. That felt like justice. Outside the conference room windows, the sun was setting over Louisville. Maya thought about the night ahead, the FBI raid on Riverside, the children being rescued, Mrs. Holland being arrested. And she thought about Joseph Crawford hiding in a cave 99 years ago, hoping someone would use his fortune better than he had. I think he'd be happy, Maya said softly, that a kid running away found his cave, that his money is going to help other kids who are running too. Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. I think you're absolutely right. Agent Walsh came back into the room. The warrant's approved. We're raiding Riverside Children's Home in 2 hours. Maya, you don't have to be there, but if you want to see justice happen. I want to be there, Maya said immediately. I want those kids to know they're safe, that someone came for them. Then let's go make that happen. Riverside Children's Home sat on 5 acres outside Louisville, surrounded by tall iron fencing that looked decorative, but served a darker purpose, keeping children in, not strangers out. Maya watched from the back seat of Agent Walsh's unmarked car as the sun set behind the familiar building. She'd lived there for 3 years. 3 years of Mrs. Holland's fake kindness and cold eyes. 3 years of watching other children disappear and being powerless to stop it. Not anymore. You ready? Agent Walsh asked gently. Maya nodded, clutching Cooper's collar. The FBI had let her bring the dog, understanding that she needed him close. Around them, 6 other vehicles sat hidden in the tree line. FBI tactical teams, Child Protective Services workers, local police backup, all waiting for the signal to move. Marcus Chen sat in the front passenger seat, insisting on being present for legal documentation purposes. But Maya knew the real reason. He wanted to make sure she felt supported, protected. Agent Walsh's radio crackled. All units in position. Target building has 17 children currently inside, plus Director Holland and 3 staff members. We've verified the transport van is scheduled to arrive at 10 p.m. That gives us 90 minutes. Maya checked the dashboard clock. 8:30 p.m. 90 minutes until another child would have been sold, but this time, the buyer would arrive to find federal agents instead. Remember, Agent Walsh said, turning to look at Maya, you stay in the car until we secure the building. No arguments. Once we've got Holland in custody and the children are safe, we'll bring you in. Agreed? Agreed, Maya said. But her hands were shaking. Those 17 kids didn't know help was coming. They were probably terrified, wondering if they'd be next, if tonight would be the night someone came for them. What would you do if you could save people from the nightmare you'd barely escaped? All units, this is Walsh. We have confirmation the van just departed from its location. ETA to target, 85 minutes. We're moving now. Go, go, go! The vehicle surged forward. The FBI didn't knock. The tactical team hit the front door with a battering ram, the crash echoing across the grounds like thunder. FBI, search warrant, everyone on the ground, hands visible. Through the car window, Maya watched agents pour into the building, moving with practiced precision. Lights blazed on throughout Riverside. She could hear shouting, crying, chaos. Cooper whined, sensing her tension. Maya wrapped her arms around his neck. It's okay, boy. They're the good guys. They're saving everyone. Minutes crawled by. Maya counted her heartbeats, trying to stay calm. Then, Agent Walsh's voice came over the radio. Building secure. Director Holland in custody. All children accounted for and unharmed. Bring in CPS. The Child Protective Services vans rolled forward. Social workers, real ones, not people like Mrs. Holland, hurried into the building carrying blankets and emergency supplies. Agent Walsh opened the car door. Come on, it's safe now. Maya stepped out on shaky legs. Cooper pressed against her side. The night air smelled like rain and pine. From inside Riverside, she could hear children's voices, confused, scared, asking questions. She walked through the front door she'd escaped through just 24 hours ago. The entry hall was full of FBI agents documenting everything, photographing, collecting evidence. Mrs. Holland sat in handcuffs on the floor, her perfectly styled hair disheveled, her expression of shock slowly turning to fury. When she saw Maya, her eyes went wide. You, Mrs. Holland hissed, you did this, you ungrateful little... That's enough, Agent Walsh said sharply. Mrs. Holland, you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." An agent hauled Mrs. Holland to her feet and led her toward a waiting police car. As she passed Maya, the woman's mask of civility finally cracked completely. "Do you have any idea what you've done? I provided for these children. I found them homes. You sold them," Maya said quietly. "You sold us like we were things you owned. That's what you did." Mrs. Holland's face twisted with rage, but the agent pushed her forward before she could respond. Maya watched her disappear into the police car and felt a weight lift from her chest. The woman who'd haunted her nightmares for 3 years was gone, powerless, defeated. "Maya?" She turned to see a CPS worker, a kind-faced black woman in her 50s, standing in the doorway to the common room. "The children are asking about you. They saw you come in. Some of them remember you. Would you like to see them?" Maya nodded and followed her into the room. 17 children sat on couches and chairs, wrapped in blankets despite the warm evening. Ages ranged from 5 to 14. Some were crying, some looked numb with shock, all of them looked terrified, and they all turned to look when Maya entered. "Maya!" A small voice. 6-year-old Sophie, sweet shy Sophie who loved to draw, launched herself off the couch and ran to Maya, wrapping small arms around her waist. "You came back. They said you ran away, but you came back." Other children began talking all at once. "What's happening? Why are there police? Are we in trouble? Where's Mrs. Holland?" Maya knelt down so she was at their level, Sophie still clinging to her. Cooper sat beside them, a calm, golden presence. "You're not in trouble," Maya said clearly. "None of you are in trouble. Mrs. Holland was doing bad things, selling children to people who hurt them. The FBI found out and stopped her. You're all safe now." A 13-year-old boy named David, Maya remembered him, quiet and watchful, spoke up. "The transport van was supposed to come tonight, for Emma." He gestured to a terrified 10-year-old girl sitting rigid on the couch. Emma's eyes were huge. "Was it my turn? Was I—" Her voice broke. "Not anymore," Maya said firmly. "That van is going to arrive to find federal agents. The people who run that operation are going to be arrested. No one is taking you anywhere you don't want to go, ever again." Could you find the right words to help children understand they're finally free? "But where will we go?" asked a 7-year-old named Marcus. "If not here, where?" The CPS worker stepped forward. "You'll be placed in safe homes tonight, real safe homes, verified and monitored, and tomorrow we'll start finding permanent families for each of you. Families who want you because they love you, not because they are being paid." "How do we know?" Emma whispered. "How do we know it's real? Mrs. Holland always said nice things too." Maya understood that fear, the bone-deep terror of trusting anyone after being betrayed so completely. "I know because I ran away yesterday," Maya said. "I ran into the forest and I found something that's going to change everything. Not just for me, for all of us. I found money, lots of money, and I'm using it to make sure kids like us never have to be scared like this again." She looked at Agent Walsh, who nodded permission to continue. "There's going to be a foundation, the Joseph Crawford Foundation for Rescued Children. It'll help every kid who was hurt by places like this. Therapy, education, safe housing, legal help, everything you need. And it'll track down every child Mrs. Holland sold over the years and make sure they're safe too." David's eyes narrowed. "How much money did you find?" $83 million. The room went silent. Then Sophie looked up at Maya with wonder in her eyes. "Really? Really? And it's going to help all of us." At 10:07 p.m., the transport van arrived. Maya watched from inside Riverside as the white van pulled up to the gates, exactly on schedule. The driver probably expected Mrs. Holland to come out with Emma to hand over the paperwork and the child to collect payment. Instead, 6 FBI agents surrounded the van with weapons drawn. "FBI, turn off the engine and step out of the vehicle with your hands visible." The driver tried to run, made it maybe 10 feet before agents tackled him to the ground. From the back of the van, agents pulled out restraints, chains, and sedatives, equipment for transporting human cargo. Maya turned away, feeling sick. That could have been her. That could have been any of them. Agent Walsh appeared beside her. "We've identified the driver. His name is Victor Reeves, and he's been doing this for Mrs. Holland for 6 years. We're checking his phone records and GPS history to locate every delivery he's made. We're going to find every child, Maya, every single one. How many? Maya asked quietly. We don't know yet. But Mrs. Holland kept records. Detailed financial records of every transaction. She thought they'd protect her if anyone ever investigated. Instead, they're going to destroy her. We're estimating at least 40 children over the past 8 years. 40 children. 40 lives stolen, sold, traumatized. We're going to find them all, Agent Walsh repeated. And the foundation you're creating, it's going to help every one of them. By midnight, all 17 children had been placed in emergency foster homes, real ones, carefully vetted, with social workers who would check on them daily. Sophie went to a family in Louisville with 3 other adopted children and 2 dogs. She hugged Maya goodbye and whispered, "Thank you for being brave." Emma was placed with a single woman who'd been fostering for 20 years and specialized in trauma care. As she left, she looked back at Maya. "You really found $83 million? I really did. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard." David was the last to leave. He approached Maya while waiting for his placement transport. "I remember when you first came to Riverside," he said, 3 years ago. "You cried every night for a week." Maya nodded. "I missed my grandmother. She just died." "You're not crying now." "No, now I'm fighting." David smiled, a real smile, the first Maya had seen from him. "Good. Keep fighting, for all of us." "I will," Maya promised. By 1 a.m., Riverside Children's Home was empty except for FBI agents cataloging evidence. Maya stood in the common room one last time, Cooper at her side. This place had been her prison, her nightmare, the source of 3 years of fear. And now it was just an empty building that would soon be shut down permanently. "Ready to go?" Marcus Chen asked gently. Maya nodded. "Where am I going?" "Tonight? A wonderful family named the Johnsons. They're licensed emergency foster parents who specialize in children with pets. Tomorrow we'll start the process of finding you a permanent placement, unless—" He paused. "The Johnsons have expressed interest in adoption, if you're open to it. They don't even know me. They know you're brave enough to escape, smart enough to find an $83 million fortune, and caring enough to use it to help other children. That's a pretty good start." 2 days later, Maya sat in federal court watching Mrs. Holland's arraignment. The charges were read: human trafficking, racketeering, fraud, child endangerment, conspiracy, obstruction of justice. 17 counts minimum, with more expected as the investigation continued. Mrs. Holland's lawyer argued for bail. The prosecutor, a fierce woman named Sarah Martinez, shut that down immediately. "Your Honor, the defendant has sold over 40 children into trafficking rings over 8 years. She has extensive financial resources hidden in offshore accounts. She has demonstrated zero remorse and has made threats against witnesses, including the 8-year-old child whose testimony will be crucial to this case. She is an extreme flight risk and a danger to children. The government requests she be held without bail." The judge, a stern man in his 60s, looked at Mrs. Holland with cold disgust. "Bail denied. The defendant will be remanded to federal custody pending trial." As bailiffs led Mrs. Holland away, she turned and looked directly at Maya sitting in the gallery. But there was no power in that look anymore, just the impotent rage of someone who'd been caught and knew they'd lost. Maya didn't look away. She met Mrs. Holland's eyes steadily until the woman was gone. Agent Walsh sat beside Maya. The van driver, Victor Reeves, agreed to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. "He's giving us names, locations, everything. We've already located 12 of the children he transported. By next week, we expect to find at least 20 more." "What happens to them?" "They'll be offered counseling, medical care, and the option to testify if they choose. And your foundation will make sure they have support for as long as they need it." Maya thought about Joseph Crawford hiding in a cave, counting days, hoping someone would use his fortune for good. "He'd be happy," she said softly, "about what his money is doing." "Who?" "Joseph Crawford, the bootlegger who hid the fortune. He wanted it to do good in the world. I think this is what he meant." 1 week after the raid, Maya stood in Marcus Chen's conference room as he presented the foundation structure. "The Joseph Crawford Foundation for Rescued Children," Marcus explained, showing documents on a large screen. funded with the full $83 million from the Swiss accounts, plus whatever additional interest accrues. The mission is threefold: rescue operations to find trafficked children, comprehensive support services for survivors, and advocacy to change laws and shut down operations like Riverside. He clicked to the next slide. We've hired a director, former FBI agent Rebecca Walsh, who will oversee operations. We're partnering with existing organizations to maximize reach. And we're establishing a scholarship fund for survivors who want to pursue higher education. How many kids can we help? Maya asked. With this funding? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, depending on how we invest and grow the endowment. Maya looked at the logo Marcus's team had designed, a cave entrance with light streaming in, and a silhouette of a child and dog standing at the threshold. From darkness into light, Marcus said. That's the Foundation's motto, because that's your story, Maya, and it'll be the story of every child we help. That night, sleeping in her new room at the Johnsons' house, a real bedroom with a real bed and her own desk and Cooper sleeping on a dog bed beside her, Maya thought about everything that had changed in 1 week. She'd gone from being merchandise worth $10,000 to the founder of a foundation worth $83 million. From a terrified runaway hiding in a cave to a survivor helping other survivors, from powerless to powerful. But the best part wasn't the money or the power. It was knowing that Sophie and Emma and David and all the others were safe, that children she'd never met would be found and helped, that Mrs. Holland would spend the rest of her life in prison where she couldn't hurt anyone. That was justice. That was what Joseph Crawford's fortune was meant for. Cooper stirred in his sleep, probably dreaming of running through forests. Maya reached down and scratched his ears. "Good boy," she whispered. "You saved me. Now we get to save everyone else." The dog's tail thumped once against the floor. Outside, the world kept turning. But inside, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Peace. 9-year-old Maya Chen stood in federal court, her hand resting on Cooper's head, ready to testify. 6 months had passed since the raid. 6 months of therapy sessions where she learned that nightmares were normal, that trust could be rebuilt, that safety was real. 6 months living with Tom and Rachel Johnson in a house that smelled like vanilla candles and felt like home. 6 months watching the Joseph Crawford Foundation grow from an idea into reality. And the day of the hearing she had been waiting for finally arrived. She was very excited when she woke up that morning. The courtroom was packed with journalists, advocates, and survivors, teenagers and young adults who'd escaped Mrs. Holland's trafficking operation and come to watch justice be served. Rachel had chosen Maya's outfit. She was wearing a navy blue dress. Her hands trembled slightly, but Cooper's steady presence calmed her. It was as if she had been born to support her in every situation. "Miss Chen," Prosecutor Sarah Martinez said gently, "can you tell the jury what life was like at Riverside Children's Home?" Maya took a breath and told her story. The fear, the disappearances. The night she overheard Mrs. Holland arranging her sale for $10,000, the desperate escape through the window, Cooper breaking his chain to follow her. "And then you found the cave," Sarah prompted. "Yes, Cooper led me there. It was dark and scary, but safer than being caught. Inside I found Joseph Crawford's documents, the bootlegger's fortune he'd hidden 99 years ago. Could you face your abuser and speak truth that would imprison them forever?" Margaret Holland sat at the defense table in her orange jumpsuit, jaw clenched, eyes cold. Her expensive lawyers had tried everything: motions to dismiss, challenges to evidence, attacks on witness credibility. Nothing worked. The evidence was overwhelming. "What did you do with the $83 million you discovered?" Sarah asked. "I used it to help other kids. We created the Joseph Crawford Foundation. In 6 months, we've already rescued 47 children from trafficking situations." The jury took notes, several nodding with obvious respect. The defense attorney's cross-examination tried to discredit her. Wasn't she too young to remember accurately? Couldn't she have misunderstood what she heard? "I heard Mrs. Holland say $10,000 and transport van arrives at midnight," Maya said firmly. "That's very specific. I didn't misunderstand." When Maya stepped down, she walked past Mrs. Holland's table. The woman's eyes followed her with pure hatred, but Maya wasn't afraid anymore. Mrs. Holland couldn't do anything here. The jury deliberated 4 hours. Maya sat in the courthouse cafeteria with the Johnsons, too nervous to eat. Cooper lay under the table, occasionally pressing his nose to her leg. "What if they don't convict her?" Maya whispered. Tom squeezed her shoulder. "The evidence is ironclad, sweetheart. She's not walking away." The word sweetheart still made Maya's chest tight in the best way. The Johnsons used casual endearments constantly, sweetheart, honey, kiddo, and each one felt like a small promise of belonging. Agent Rebecca Walsh appeared. "Verdict's in." The courtroom reconvened. Maya gripped Rachel's hand as the jury filed in. "On the charge of human trafficking in the first degree, how do you find?" "We find the defendant, Margaret Holland, guilty." The word hit like thunder. The courtroom erupted in gasps and cheers. Maya felt Tom's arm around her shoulders, Rachel squeezing her hand so hard it hurt. The judge continued. "Guilty on all 43 counts. Guilty of racketeering, fraud, child endangerment, conspiracy. Guilty, guilty, guilty." As bailiffs led Mrs. Holland away, she turned one last time to glare at Maya. But there was no triumph in those eyes now, just hollow defeat. Maya didn't look away. "You can't hurt anyone anymore." The Foundation's rescue operations began immediately. Agent Walsh, now full-time director of rescue operations, led teams tracking Mrs. Holland's financial records and interviewing witnesses. They followed every lead, no matter how small. They found Sarah, now 15, working as a domestic servant for a Los Angeles family who'd kept her imprisoned. FBI raided the house, arrested the family, rescued Sarah. She was placed in therapeutic foster care and slowly began healing. They found Marcus, 13, sold to a farm in Idaho where he'd worked 16-hour days for no pay. 4 years of stolen childhood. The Foundation got him medical care, therapy, and enrolled him in school for the first time since his disappearance. They found Lily, Jason, Emma, David. One by one, the team brought them home. Not all stories had happy endings. 3 children had died in captivity. 2 were sold internationally and couldn't be located despite exhaustive searches. 5 were found, but too traumatized to immediately accept help. But 47 children were rescued in the first 6 months. Maya met with each survivor who wanted to meet her. Some weren't ready. Trauma doesn't heal on anyone else's schedule. But those who came to the Foundation's Louisville headquarters all asked the same question. "You found what in a cave?" Maya showed them around. Therapy rooms, legal advocacy offices, education center, emergency shelter. She introduced them to carefully vetted staff who genuinely cared. "Joseph Crawford wanted his money to do good," Maya explained. "I think this is exactly what he meant." 4 weeks later, Judge Patricia Morrison sentenced Margaret Holland. The courtroom overflowed with survivors, children Holland had sold, now teenagers or adults who'd traveled across the country to witness this moment. Holland stood in shackles, face haggard from months in federal prison. "Margaret Holland," Judge Morrison began, voice cold as winter, "you were entrusted with vulnerable children's care. Instead, you betrayed that trust in the most heinous way possible. You sold human beings for profit, you destroyed lives, and you showed absolutely no remorse." The judge looked at papers before her. "I've read 47 victim impact statements. I've reviewed psychiatric evaluations detailing trauma you caused. I've considered 8 years of systematic trafficking." She looked up. "The law provides for life imprisonment. Some might say that's insufficient punishment. I disagree. Life in prison, every remaining day spent behind bars knowing you can never hurt another child, is exactly what you deserve." Judge Morrison's voice hardened. "On 43 counts of human trafficking, I sentence you to life in federal prison without possibility of parole. On additional charges, I add consecutive sentences totaling 120 years. Mrs. Holland, you will die in prison. That is my sentence and my hope." The gavel fell with finality. Holland's shoulders sagged. Her lawyers talked about appeals, but everyone knew the verdict was solid, evidence overwhelming. Margaret Holland's free life was over forever. As she was led away, she stared straight ahead, finally understanding she'd lost completely. Maya watched her disappear and felt a knot of fear, carried for 3 years, finally release. It was over. Mrs. Holland was gone. Justice was served. Rachel hugged her. How do you feel? Free, Maya whispered, really free. 2 weeks later, Maya stood in family court, but this time was different. This time, she wasn't watching others get adopted while wondering if anyone would want her. This time, she was being chosen. Judge Stephen Park, a kind man specializing in adoption cases, smiled at her. Miss Chen, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, welcome. The courtroom felt warm, intimate, a place where families were built, not destroyed. I've reviewed your petition, Judge Park said. You're requesting to adopt Maya Chen, is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Tom said. And Maya, you want this adoption? Yes, Maya said firmly. Very much. Can you tell me why? What do you say when asked why you want to belong? Maya thought about 6 months of homework help, cookie baking, therapy support, bedtime stories. Thought about them turning a guest room into her room, letting her choose paint colors, buying Cooper toys and treats, making him family. The way Rachel cried the first time Maya accidentally called her mom. Because they love me, Maya said. Not because they're paid or have to. They choose to love me, and I love them. I want to be their daughter forever. Rachel was crying. Tom's eyes were bright. Judge Park smiled. That's what families should be. Love and choice. He looked at paperwork. Your new name will be Maya Chen Johnson, keeping your grandmother's name while adding theirs. How do you feel about that? Perfect. Grandma would love it. Then it's my honor to grant this adoption. Maya Chen, you are now legally and forever the daughter of Thomas and Rachel Johnson. Congratulations. The gavel fell, not on judgment, but on beginning. Rachel pulled Maya into a hug, crying happy tears. Tom wrapped arms around both. Cooper wagged his tail so hard his whole body wiggled. Welcome to the family, sweetie, Rachel whispered. Forever. Forever, Maya repeated. She had a family, real, permanent, legal family, people who chose her. For the first time in 3 years, Maya understood what home meant. 1 year after finding the cave, Maya stood on stage at the Joseph Crawford Foundation's first annual gala. The Louisville ballroom was packed with donors, supporters, survivors, journalists. The foundation had grown beyond expectations. $83 million had expanded through donations and investments to a $150 million endowment. The impact was staggering. 97 children rescued, 200 survivors receiving therapy, 3 facilities like Riverside shut down, 47 educational scholarships awarded, a 24-hour hotline established. Maya wore a navy dress, hair braided neatly, Cooper sitting calmly in his service vest. At 10 years old, she was too young to legally run the foundation, but she was its founder and public face. My name is Maya Chen Johnson, she began, and 1 year ago, I was running for my life through a Kentucky forest. She told the story, escape, cave, discovery, fortune. She'd told it dozens of times, but the fear never quite faded from memory. Joseph Crawford was a bootlegger who made bad choices. Before he died, he hoped someone would find his money and use it better than he had. Use it for good. She gestured to screens showing rescued children, faces blurred, smiles genuine. This is what his fortune has done. 97 children rescued, 200 survivors getting help, 47 young people going to college, but we're not done. There are still children who need us. That's why we're here, to reach even more kids. Applause was thunderous. Agent Walsh, now full-time director, took the microphone. Next year, we're expanding to 6 more states. We're partnering internationally. We're launching legislative advocacy to change laws. She looked at Maya with pride. None of this exists without one brave girl who refused to give up. Maya were so proud. Later, as the gala wound down, Marcus Chen approached with a folder. Maya, there's something you should see. We found this in Joseph Crawford's cave during final evidence collection. He pulled out a letter, old, yellowed, sealed in protective plastic, addressed, to the person who finds my fortune. Maya read, If you're reading this, you've found what I hid. You're probably wondering about me. The truth is, I was both good and bad. Aren't we all? I made moonshine because people wanted to drink and I wanted money. I didn't think I was hurting anyone, but I was wrong. My business funded violence. I built fortune on people's weaknesses. When everything fell apart and I ended up in this cave waiting to die, I had time to think about what I'd done, what I'd failed to do, what would happen to my money. I don't have family to leave it to, so I'm leaving it to chance, to whoever finds this cave. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're desperate, running from something, needing a break. I hope you use this money better than I did. Build something good, something that helps instead of hurts, something that makes the world less dark. I was a bootlegger and probably a bad man. But maybe my money can do good after I'm gone. Maybe that's my only redemption. Use it well. Be braver than I was. Choose better than I did. And if you're in that cave alone and scared, hold on. Morning comes. It always does. Joseph Crawford, July 17th, 1925, my last day of freedom. Maya read it 3 times, tears streaming. Joseph Crawford died the next day. They'd found his remains in the cave's deepest chamber, 27 years old, a young man who made mistakes and tried, at the end, to do something right. Morning comes, Maya whispered. It always does. She looked at Marcus. We should put this in our lobby, behind glass, so everyone knows that even people who make terrible mistakes can still do good. That redemption is possible. Perfect, Marcus agreed. 15-year-old Maya stood at the cave entrance, now a protected historical site. Cooper, 13 years old, muzzle gray, sat patiently beside her, still loyal despite age slowing him down. First time back since that terrifying night 6 years ago. She'd driven with her parents, Tom and Rachel, her family for 5 years. You okay? Rachel asked. Yeah, I just wanted to see it, to remember. The cave looked different in daylight, less menacing. It was just a limestone cave. It was no different from other caves. The only difference was that this cave had saved many people's lives, except this one saved her life, held a fortune that changed thousands of lives, was Joseph Crawford's tomb and Maya's salvation. A plaque beside the entrance read, "The Crawford Cave, Bootlegger." Joseph Crawford hid here in 1925, leaving documents and fortune worth millions, hoping someone would use them better than I did. In 2026, 8-year-old Maya Chen Johnson discovered Crawford's fortune while fleeing traffickers. She established the Joseph Crawford Foundation, which has helped over 2,000 survivors. This cave represents darkness and light, where one man died in fear, another found courage to survive and help others. Morning comes, it always does. Joseph Crawford, 1925. Maya touched the plaque. Thank you, she whispered to a man dead over a century. Thank you for being brave enough to leave your fortune. Thank you for hoping someone would find it. Thank you for making it possible to save all those kids. Tom joined her. You know what I think? I think he's proud of you. Wherever he is, Joseph Crawford is proud that a scared kid found his cave and turned bootlegger money into something that saves lives. Maya smiled. I hope so. I hope he knows his money did good, that his last wish came true. They stood quietly, remembering. Then Maya turned to her parents. I'm ready to go home. Home. Beautiful word. Perfect concept. Home wasn't Riverside with cold halls and colder director. Home was a Louisville house with warm lights and family photos. Home was Tom grading papers while Rachel cooked dinner. Home was Cooper's bed in Maya's room and laughter echoing through halls. Home was being loved. As they drove away, Maya looked back through the window. The cave entrance faded into forest, just another shadow among trees. But its impact remained, would always remain. That cave gave her everything, safety, fortune, hope. In return, she'd done what Joseph Crawford asked, used it better, chose better, been braver. You okay, sweetie? Rachel asked. I'm perfect, Mom, Maya said, and she meant it. 22-year-old Maya Chen Johnson testified before the Kentucky State Senate. Senators, when I was 8, I was almost sold into trafficking. I'm standing here because I was lucky enough to escape and brave enough to keep running. She clicked to statistics. But not every child is lucky. That's why we need the Survivor Protection Act. This law would require background checks for child care facilities, increase trafficking penalties, provide automatic legal representation for rescued children, and establish emergency survivor funding. Maya had graduated high school at 16, finished undergrad at 20, and was now in law school while running the foundation. The endowment had grown to $300 million, helping over 4,500 survivors across 11 states. Mrs. Holland was still in prison, serving life. She'd filed appeals, all denied. She would die behind bars. Victor Reeves, the transport driver, served 8 years and was released. He now worked for the Foundation's rescue operations, using insider knowledge to locate trafficking rings. Redemption is possible, Maya had told skeptical board members. Joseph Crawford proved it. Reeves had since helped rescue 38 children. Sarah was now 21, working as a foundation counselor while finishing her psychology degree. Marcus was 17, planning to become a lawyer. Emma was 15, running a survivor support group at school. Cooper had passed 2 years ago at 15, peacefully in his sleep. Maya still missed him. His ashes sat on her bookshelf, collar on the wall beside their photo from the day she found the cave. The foundation started a program in Cooper's memory, providing service dogs to survivors. 32 matches so far, continuing his legacy of loyal love. Now, finishing her Senate testimony, Maya felt the weight of everyone she fought for. 4,500 already helped, thousands more needing help, children currently trapped. This legislation will save lives, Maya concluded. I'm proof that the right intervention changes everything. Give us tools to help more kids. Pass the Survivor Protection Act, please. 3 weeks later, the bill passed unanimously. Maya stood in the gallery watching the final vote, Rachel and Tom beside her, tears streaming. Joseph Crawford's fortune, hidden 99 years, had changed law, saved thousands, turned one bootlegger's regret into legacy of hope. Morning comes, Maya whispered. It always does. And it had. For her, for 4,500 survivors, for thousands more who'd benefit from the new law. The darkness she'd fled into as a terrified 8-year-old had given way to light. Now she spent her life making sure other children found that light too. That was justice. That was redemption. That was what Joseph Crawford's fortune was meant for. And Maya would spend her life doing exactly that, turning darkness into light, one rescued child at a time. Because morning always comes. Always. What emotional connection did this story create for you, and what are your thoughts on what the orphaned girl Maya and her companion Rachel went through? Let's meet in the comments.